لا لسه بعدين مش
Okay. Shukran. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for coming to share with us today this great celebration. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mohamed Elhalwagy. I'm the president of the Nile Association of Ontario. I would like to thank you all being with us, and special thanks to His Excellency Motaz Zahran, our ambassador in Ottawa, Dr. and Wagih and Hoda Al-Marali for being sponsor for this event tonight. Mr. Mahmoud Al-Farnawani, he is the president of the Nile Association previously, and he is the founder of this association 30 years ago. I would like also to thank Mr. M2U00010. He is the vice president of the Egyptian Canadian Club. Also with us, Mrs. Lubna Al-Wardani. She is the president of the Rotary Club of Alexandria Marine, and who was working with us from here and from Egypt to support all the Egyptians in Egypt for making a lot of effort, and I will let her, she talk about herself in a few seconds. Today we are here to have this celebration for the inauguration of the new Suez Canal. And before we start, I would like you to stand up. We are for the national anthem, Canadian and the Egyptian. It is in Arabic. Yeah, Canada. Oh, Canada in Arabic.
Yeah.
This project was initiated by President Fattah al-Sisi in August 2014. And the project was a big surprise to the whole world. And the time was set up for this project was 3 years. And President Fattah al-Sisi requested if they can shorten it for 1 year. It was impossible, but now it is a fact, it's happened that 1 year, when he requested 1 year, it's happened, and inshallah, the opening will be on August the 6th, next month. The two-way, like just in a few words, the benefit, the two-way transit time moved from the average of 3 hours, from 3 hours, moved to 3 hours instead of 11 hours. It's also the increasing number of ships moving toward the Suez Canal will be from 23 to 97 ships within the next like 10 years or so. The other thing is the budget or the revenue from the Suez Canal will be double at that time. The other thing that this project was mainly funded by Egyptian public when President Fattah al-Sisi opened it on public investment tax-free account for Egyptian people to donate or to share for the cost of this project, and was able to collect the $8 billion in about almost 1 week due to the enthusiasm of the Egyptian people to get to this project started. And now I would like to call upon Dr. Wagih Al-Marawi to show us what he has to say about this great project. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Motaz Zahran, Ambassador of Egypt, all the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my distinct pleasure to give you a short presentation. With the videos, it might take about half an hour, just to get an idea about the history of the Suez Canal, and also about the great achievements that have taken place lately. Today, by the way, in 25 days is the official opening, and coincidentally I read in Facebook today that today is the first day of the official public support campaign internationally for the project in preparation for the inauguration on the 6th of August. I am with the University of Windsor. I used to be head of industrial engineering until recently. I'm also director of the Intelligent Manufacturing System Center. Just a brief perspective about the history of the Suez Canal and about the new Suez Canal. But even before that, I'd like to briefly talk about Canadian Egyptians' contributions to Canada and to Ontario. And starting with this one, I like it. You can find it on the web. It says, "I didn't ask to be Egyptian, I just got lucky." And I also got lucky again when I came to Canada, because originally I was supposed to go to the US, where I had some scholarships, but we were not allowed during that time. So I got lucky to come to Ontario, and there is no looking back. But this is what Ontario looked like in the mid-70s when we came here. 40 years ago, 45 years ago, if you look on the left-hand side, these are the cars, and this is the single GO train, and under the leadership and the wisdom of the Ontario government at the time, they decided immigration is increasing, we have to increase the trains and the commuter systems, and there was no way to increase the number of trains because it was shared with Canadian National Railways, with the priority being for freight. So the only way we had is to go up. I got lucky again because my PhD was in vehicle dynamics, so they had to hire me. So, and I worked on this, and we had a lot of innovation and awards in 1975, and the rest is history. But also I worked on the mainline vehicles. And the joke I always say, if you take any of those trains and you like the ride, let me know and I'll take a bow. If you don't like it, it's the bloody maintenance. But Egyptian Canadians in general, there are a large number of them in Canada and in Ontario. They actually focus mostly in Ontario, Quebec, and some in the West as well, and all over the country in any case. Most of them started in the 50s and more in the 70s. I guess I belong to the larger group that came in the 70s. There are no exact numbers of how many Egyptian Canadians there are. According to Egyptian officials in Canada, it's about 250,000. However, Statistics Canada numbers are much smaller than that. But in any case, Egyptian Canadian community is highly distinguished. These are not my words. This is a quote. It has a very high level of educational, professional expertise, and social standing. Many of its members have reached their senior position in their fields of academic, science, research, and business. Egyptian Canadians, whether original immigrants or successive generations, are very dedicated to helping Egypt. And I think we see that, and it's also recognized. It's recognized not only by Egypt and Egyptians, but also by Canadian officials. His Excellency was telling me earlier that the Governor General, when he met with Ambassador Motaz Zahran, did mention by name many of the senior colleagues in academia that he knew, and some of them are in the audience. They will be recognized in a minute as well in my talk. Egyptian Canadians have contributed in many ways, directly by spending time in Egypt and helping in projects. Also through programs such as the United Nations Development Doctrine Program, which is the transfer of technology through expatriate nationals, as well as the Association of Egyptian American Scholars, which is US and Canada, and many other vehicles. And I personally have participated in many of these. And when I was helping CIMAF, which is in Helwan, where I was born, and I did several Tocton projects with them. They have developed their products. It happens to be railway vehicles, the area of my expertise. And recently, you would have heard in the news that CIMAF, which is now part of Elhalwagy al-Tasniya, are producing at a good rate air-conditioned vehicles, not only for the metro, but also for the main lines, such as Alexandria. So I think this is quite a very positive development in many areas. Recently, Nahar Egyptian TV was in Canada, and they did record documentaries with several colleagues in Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa, and also in Toronto. And they were particularly interested in this project, and they wanted me to go and do the filming there. And I had not really met these people for more than 20 years, being now in academia, but they did welcome us. And what is particularly important is they said the equipment is so good that Ontario decided that they will not use anything else for this system for at least the next 70 years. So I think this is something to be proud of. Another thing that you would have seen from M2U00010 Institute is, and I'll read it in Arabic first, انتجد 7 عمداء مصريين لكليات الهندسة في جامعات كندا المختلفة، فهذا فخر لمصر لا يضاهيه أي فخر آخر. وانتجد 3 نواب لرؤساء جامعات مصريين، فهذا فخر آخر. أما أن تحتل أول 3 سيدات في تاريخ كندا كلها منصب عميد كلية الهندسة، وتكون السيدات ال3 مصريات، فهذا دليل أن مصر تستطيع. That Egypt can. And I think, Hoda, you should stand up and also take it out. That was 1994. That has been a pioneer in many areas. Following that was also another colleague, Sumaya Yahoud, also the first for a Francophone university, and Taysir, Dr. Taysir Abou Nas at the University of Ottawa and UBC. But now, this poster that I showed is now old, because now we have presidents. And there is Sami Mahmoud, who was president for a short time, and then he became president of Sharjah University until last year. And then we are very pleased that Dr. Mamdouh Shukri, a very dear colleague that I have known at McMaster University, is president of the largest, or one of the largest universities in Canada, York University, since 2007. He is also the first Egyptian that I know that has been decorated with both the Order of Ontario and the Order of Canada. Mamdouh. So that's a very proud achievement indeed. And, but I have to say there are many, many examples. Mohamed Elhalwagy gave me a whole CD, or at least threatened to give me a whole CD that has, and I said then there will be all just about Egypt, not about the Suez Canal. So let's talk about the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is a vital route for world trade. If you can see just one example, there is a 40% savings in the distance, and you can imagine then the energy consumption, the pollution, particularly that we want the planet to be green, to go from Mumbai to London, England, for instance. And there are many other statistics that shows that this. The other very important thing is that the GDP of the world is directly paralleled by the business that the Suez Canal does. So, and you can see the yellow line is the GDP of the world, and the blue is the frequency or the rate of traffic within the Suez Canal. So, indeed, the Suez Canal is important not only for Egypt as a source of income, but also for the world and world traffic. But the Suez Canal that exists now as we know it was not the first attempt at linking the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. That started in the days of the Pharaoh, 1887 BC. And here is an example of a canal by Sesostris linking the two seas through the Nile. But silting made those canals disappear over time. The existing canal was, you can see in one of the pictures here, the statue of the Lesseps, who was removed after the '56 war, but is now in Port Fouad in one of the hangars. I don't know if it's going to come out again, but in any case, and this was a deal with the Egyptian government that they would get a 99 years lease in return for doing this work, in which 1.5 million people participated and 120,000 Egyptians lost their lives. It also took about a decade to do. By 18 March '86, the Mediterranean water had flowed into Lake Timsah, and at the same time, the Mediterranean water also reached the bitter lakes. Later, the Red Sea water reached the small bitter lakes, and then finally, in the last step, the two waters were joined. That's the history of this. And then there was a big inauguration. I didn't mean to skip Aida. I like Aida, so I will let it play again. Khedive Ismail, there was Egypt was very rich from selling the famous Egyptian cotton, and there was a lot of money, and there was big celebration, and he commissioned opera Aida by Giuseppe Verdi. What is maybe not very well known is that the modern or the opera house at the time was built on time, but the opera Aida was not ready, so it didn't really play at the inauguration. It played later. However, Khedive Ismail had a lavish reception. There were about 6,000 dignitaries in attendance, many from Western world, and because all the expenses were paid by Egypt, that ceremony cost 2 million Egyptian pounds at the time. Do you know how much that is now? A few billion Egyptian pounds. This is the Suez Canal in the red, showing the parallel line that will be opened. It's almost done, 99% done, a few days to go. And there will be a couple of videos to show you how the operation is done, particularly the wet dredging. And it's about 72 kilometers long. The existing Suez Canal is about 165 kilometers long. But this is enough to do what Mohamed Elhalwagy has already told us, is to increase the revenue by 300% or 250%. The number of vessels increased by 50% at least, and the time to pass, there is, different figures. The official figures I have here, down from 18 hours to 11 hours. But I think it's almost half the time. So I think this is really needed, particularly for the super containers that the Egyptian new new Suez Canal can take. But in addition, what is really important is the spin-off projects that are going to happen on both sides of the canal that will result in more revenue and also jobs. And I think in October they begin, after the official opening, they have another international conference for the investors. So it will be a good time for you to invest. This one is about seven minutes history.
Its water artery granted life to Egyptians, an artery saturated with the blood of hundreds of thousands of people of this country over the ages. Since the ancestors sacrificed their lives and blood to dig the greatest waterway, which changed the world trade map, then sacrificed one more time with their lives in the greatest scenes of sacrifice and heroism to seize the Egyptians' sovereignty of the world's greatest waterway, is the Suez Canal. Suez Canal is the most important waterway in the whole world. Connects east with west and north with south, with a length of 193 kilometers, starting from Port Said at its northern gate over the Mediterranean Sea until Suez, its southern gate over the Red Sea. The story of digging Suez Canal going back to the 30th of November 1854, when the Caliph of Egypt, Mohamed signed the concession of digging the Suez Canal to his French friend de Lesseps. The concession which gave the company the right of using the canal for 99 years, starting from its opening. To write the first page in the story of the canal, a page wrote with the sweat of 1.5 million Egyptian workers and colored with the blood of 120,000 Egyptians, flooding the way of the canal before water flooded it. The former leader Gamal Abdel Nasser was the settler who ended seasons of occupation and exploitation when he strongly responded on the World Bank refusal to finance the construction of the High Dam.
باسم الأمة رئيس الجمهورية مادة واحد تؤمم الشركة العالمية لقناة السويس البحرية شركة مساهمة مصرية.
And he declared in the 25th of July 1956 the nationalization of the Suez Canal and transforming it into a joint stock Egyptian company and transferring its ownership from the French government to Egypt. To write Nasser a new page in the history of Egypt and returns joy and dignity in the hearts of every Egyptian. Year after year, Egypt succeeded in managing the Suez Canal in a very efficient way and developed it in many successful projects in development and deepening and expansion with a cost of 40 million Egyptian pounds until 1961. The development stages continued after the great victories of October, when Egypt removed large amounts of sand from the bottom of the canal and the surface of the earth. And these development stages did not stop all over those years until today.
It's the largest project of its size. More than 45 countries and nationalities involved. And this last video is a kind of a sequence, time sequence of the achievements. We'll see if we have time to see all of it from a year ago until a couple of weeks ago.
ببدء حفل قناة السويس الجديدة لتكون شريانا إضافيا للخير لمصر ولشعبها العظيم.
for the two canals, the old and the new. تحيا مصر.
تحيا مصر.
The program is that we would have a panel discussion here, starting with His Excellency Ambassador Motaz Zahran. He will say a few words, and then if you have any questions for any one of us. His CV is very impressive. He arrived as ambassador to Canada in October 2014, but I will let you read. And I was really impressed how he has progressed very rapidly from diplomatic attaché and third secretary in the cabinet of the Minister of Foreign Affairs after he started and joined the diplomatic service of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Egypt in 1991. He also served as second and first secretary, political counselor, and congressional officer in the Embassy of the Arab Republic of Egypt in Washington, D.C., 2007 to 2010. Then chargé d'affaires in the same embassy for 1 year, and then went back to Egypt as director of the office for the Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs for International Organizations and Multilateral Affairs, 11 to 12. And then advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Deputy Assistant Minister just before coming to Canada. His academic background is GCE from University of London, High School Certificate 85, License Cum Laude LLB from University of Mohamed 5, School of Judicial, Social and Economic Sciences in Rabat. But he's a registered LLM in the field of international trade law, Faculty of Law, Cairo University, and a graduate of the Institute of Diplomatic Studies, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Cairo, Egypt. It's my pleasure to introduce Ambassador Motaz.
Before Motaz may start, I'd like to ask Ma'am Lubna Elhalwagy from the Rotary Club in Alexandria. She wants to thank the community for supporting the Egyptian in Alexandria and in Cairo.
Good afternoon, everyone, Your Highness, distinguished guests. My name is could you hear me like this? My name is Elhalwagy. I was the past president 12 days ago because our year ended in June, not July. Now I am the Rotary Foundation chairperson, a heavier task in my club. I'm here today first to tell you what is Rotary. We are all volunteers in Rotary. Egypt, she has about 76 clubs in Rotary, and we are District 2451. We are all volunteers. We have like CPARs, Rotaract, Interact, and Rotarian. We are Rotarian. Interact children, they start from 18 years, 12 to 18 years old. And then 18 to 30 years old, this is our Rotaract, and then we are the Rotaracts. I'm proud, alhamdulillah, this year that we came first among the 76 clubs in the district. We took like 8 awards and 3 presidential citations from Rotary International in the United States. So we take for Rotary, Rotaract, and Interact. What our purpose is in the community. What we do, we focus on 6 areas, which are child and maternity, literacy, water, peace, education, etc. This is the main issue that we have. I am proud that this year also, the Nile Association, they help us a lot. like 4 years ago, every year they help us. Some members really, they are generous. They help us this year in this project, literacy in Hizbat al-Ala. And we have CLE classes, what we call CLE. It's a new program, which is a bit easier, so people there, they can understand. So they have 2 classes. They have us also in Ramadan boxes, in the Ma'idat al-Rahman. Also, they have us in the wedding of the orphans. This is our signature project every year. So, and another project this year, also they have us in a medical ultrasound for the institute, for the Alexandria Institute. They had none of this because they broken there, and just this, they will use it for the poor people. So I'm here really to thank them, and to thank the president. And I hope they are all here because I don't want to mention any names. And this is from our district. This is to President Dr. Mohamed Elhalwagy, please. And I hope you are welcome. I hope your support will last forever. Thank you very much. Thank you.
His Excellency Motaz Zahran say a few words to our community.
Well, thank you very much. It's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to be amongst you all today. It's a special occasion that we're here gathered to celebrate. But before I enter into the subject matter very quickly, let me just say that how humbled I am to represent Egypt in Canada amongst you. You are all the ambassadors of Egypt. I am just the converse, and that's true. The amount of appreciation, of gratitude, of extreme value that the Canadian society at large and the Canadian officials have for all of you is just overwhelming. I was completely overwhelmed when I was presenting my letters of credence to the Governor General. And usually you're not, happy to be lectured, but that was probably the only time that I felt proud to be lectured by the Governor General on the Egyptian-Canadian Society and the contributions they have had and they continue to have to the advancement of Canada and the well-being of Canada. This is a source of pride. I'd like to reiterate that to you, and I'd like to also add my appreciation to all of you present here and those of you who are not. Very, very quickly, Egypt has gone through historic, monumental, watershed developments in the past few years, since the first round of the revolution. The disposition of 2 presidents, a number of governments that have exceeded probably a dozen, a failed experience in political Islam at the helm of governance, an autocracy that has been overthrown a theocracy that has been overthrown until the second round of the revolution came June 30th. Now, all that gives you just a sense or a glimpse of the magnitude of the challenges that Egypt faced and is still facing. We're talking about a very positive outlook today. So I'll just give you 3 challenges. I will only speak about one of them, which is of an economic nature. But the first challenge is security for Egypt. And as we've seen lately, the horrific acts that have occurred in Egypt have only spurred to a degree, but the resolve of the country, the resolve of the state, and the resolve of the Egyptian people is so much strong to defeat the terror and violence and all that extremism that stems from an ideological base from its roots. So that's, I will not dwell too much on that since it's not the topic of today. But the second challenge is economic. And this comes mega projects that have been announced, and one of them is Qanat al-Suez. Just one of them is Qanat al-Suez. And from the presentation we've heard from Dr. al-Marar today is just indicative of how that project is indeed monumental in Egypt's history. The third challenge is legal. I will also not enter into that because we've had, as you all know and followed, a transitional phase in Egypt, and that transitional phase had 2 stops. One of them was the adoption of a new constitution that is considered to be one of the most progressive in Egypt's history, maybe the most progressive in Egypt's history. And here comes the challenge. The challenge is when we have a new parliament by the end of this year, inshallah, the first challenge of that parliament is to bring along and align all the laws and regulations that exist, that govern the land of Egypt, to be consistent with the values that we have enshrined in that new constitution. The election of the president was our second phase, and we have President al-Sisi. And the third phase will be the election of the parliament, and just yesterday the election or the electoral law had been or has been adopted. Now, I just want to say a little remark on the Egyptian Canadian community in Toronto. I've heard a question in the beginning that was directed to me: how can we be better organized? Why doesn't the embassy, isn't it more engaged with the Egyptian Canadian society here in GTA, the Greater Toronto area? Why is the consulate in Montreal too far away from us? And how to deal with them is a bit too, is not an easy task. Since day one of my arrival, and I'm sure my predecessor has also heard that, one of your main requests is to have a permanent presence here in Toronto. And I've taken that as my own baby. When you arrive somewhere new, you have to find an issue to galvanize and to attract attention, the attention of Cairo too. And I think I've succeeded in that, and I'm happy to report to you that the initial okay has been granted for a new permanent consulate here in Toronto. Yes. Wow. So I'm happy, I'm very happy for that, and the coming month will witness the implementation phase of that. On the Suez Canal, and I'm happy to be with you, and the more so on the economic side of it, that to see how Egypt is shaped up today. Egypt today is 90 million. If these demographic trends continue to hold, Egypt will be, or will cross 100 million sometime in 2030. But to get a sense of the sheer scale of the challenge this will pose, we only need to look at Egypt's present economic realities. And very briefly, I won't burden you. Today, an average of 750,000 people join the labor force in Egypt annually. This makes for an unemployment rate of around 13%. To absorb